Hi, this is Suzanne Kreider with themindtolead.com. This is the third video in our series called How 7 Leaders Stopped Making 7 Brain-Based Mistakes During Accountability Conversations. Mistake number 3, too much tell. For some reason, leaders think that we can just tell people what to do and then they'll just scurry out and do it. But if telling people what to do worked, none of us would need to be bosses because the world would just be running on its own. This is a story about one of my clients whose name is Karen. She had a very high-level position with about 6 or 7 leaders reporting to her. She was at a conference and a very well-known scientist approached her and said, "I would like to work on your team because I need to move to San Francisco and be closer to my parents." Well, she was so excited to get this guy that she didn't do her research and find out about his teaming skills. He came on board and he basically made a mess. His management style was very shaming and very blaming. And you can imagine these conversations that Karen tried to have with him that were completely unsuccessful, where she would say things like, "Randall, you need to stop behaving that way," or "Randall, this isn't working," or "Randall, cut it out." None of that worked because telling is like Teflon. It just doesn't stick. And he would shake his head yes and walk out and never change his behavior. So what I helped Karen realized is that the root of her problem was that she wasn't able to explore his discomfort. He would get very angry when she would give feedback about his behavior, and that anger just overloaded Karen and she would give up. She didn't know what to do. So this often happens with leaders. We vacillate between being very aggressive and trying to tell people what to do, and then when they push back, we become very passive. And we just say, "Okay, yeah, whatever, I'm sure, that'll be fine, whatever you want to do." The solution was to take Karen through several very practical steps of noticing when she started to cave in, helping her develop a new mindset. So brains need stickiness, and what she needed to do was get very curious. What is it about Randall that makes him so angry with people and so demeaning? And how can I help draw that out? Because when you're in a conversation like this, folks, the conversation is not about you. It's not about your discomfort and your fear to explore what this person's problem is. It's about their problem. So it was very important for Karen to realize that she just had to get over her own discomfort. The way she did that was to use some very, very practical mindfulness tools that I teach to leaders, and then she had to create some stickiness. She had to start asking Randall questions. "Well, that's very interesting, Randall. Now, when was it that you learned how to start doing these kind of behaviors with people? And what kind of results do you get, Randall, when you say to people, gee, you're a kid and you don't know what you're doing?" So it sounds kind of crazy that, well, a leader should be tough and a leader should tell people to stop doing what they're doing. But again, telling is Teflon. Questions are Velcro. What we needed to do was help her shift her style so that she got super curious and helped him start to get curious about why he was doing these behaviors that he knew wasn't really getting him the results too. It was pretty astounding because nobody had ever helped Randall investigate his behavior like this. All of his previous bosses, his professors in graduate school, had all been really intimidated by his style. And what Karen did is she overcame that discomfort that she had, and she just very calmly walked through that invisible wall that he had created around himself by asking him questions. She stayed very calm. And what happened was he was so grateful to have somebody who cared enough to help him unravel this behavior. And it didn't change overnight, but it helped his mind start to notice the triggers where his brain went back into the same old pattern of overreacting to people and demeaning people. And it's a really wonderful success story where she learned to help him begin to investigate his own behavior. And it's not therapy, let me get clear about that. It's just noticing the triggers so that that you can stop yourself before you follow through with this negative pattern. And what he realized was that he had been doing this behavior pretty much his whole life. And he learned how to be a less demeaning and more supportive boss. So the main points here are: tell is like Teflon, it just slides right off. What we have to do, particularly when we're working with knowledge workers who are very clever and they've gotten their brains in these patterns over decades and decades of these same behaviors, we have to stay calm, we have to get curious, we have to ask open-ended questions. Okay, it's a certain kind of question that draws out, creates a stickiness, a Velcro-likeness to the answers to help people get into new behaviors. So bottom line, as a boss, get curious. Thanks.